What if one of the biggest threats to memory after 60 is not aging itself, but inactivity, poor circulation, chronic stress, sleep disruption, and lack of brain stimulation, slowly reducing how efficiently the brain functions over time? And what if certain simple movements, done consistently, may help activate areas of the brain involved in focus, coordination, and memory? I'm Dr. Alan Mandel, and today we need to talk about memory, brain aging, and why neurologists are increasingly interested in the connection between movement, circulation, and cognitive health, especially after 60. Before we continue, I want to make something very clear. No 60-second exercise can magically cure dementia. No movement instantly restores lost memory overnight. And no honest neurologist would promise that one trick permanently reverses Alzheimer's disease. But the brain is deeply connected to circulation, oxygen delivery, movement, sleep, stress regulation, and neural stimulation. And certain simple exercises may help support brain function by activating coordination, focus, and blood flow in ways many people underestimate. Now here is something important many people misunderstand. Some memory changes are a normal part of aging. Occasionally forgetting names, walking into a room and forgetting why, taking longer to recall words. These experiences become more common with age because processing speed and retrieval efficiency naturally change over time. But severe confusion, dangerous disorientation, or rapidly worsening memory are different situations entirely and deserve medical evaluation. Now let's begin with why movement matters so much for the brain. The brain consumes enormous amounts of oxygen and energy. Even though it represents only a small percentage of body weight, it uses a tremendous portion of the body's blood flow and metabolic resources. This means circulation matters enormously for cognitive function. When blood flow improves, oxygen and nutrient delivery to brain tissue improves too. And this is one reason neurologists increasingly emphasize physical activity as part of healthy brain aging. Now let's discuss the 60-second exercise concept realistically. Many neurologists and cognitive specialists encourage short coordination-based movements because they activate multiple brain systems simultaneously. Balance, attention, motor control, spatial awareness, timing. One simple example involves alternating hand and leg coordination movements while maintaining focus and controlled breathing. Another common exercise involves crossing the midline of the body. For example, touching the right hand to the left knee repeatedly, then alternating sides. Why does this matter? Because coordinated movement forces communication between different brain regions. The brain is not one single memory center. Memory depends on networks involving attention, sensory processing, emotional regulation, motor planning, sleep quality, and blood flow. And honestly, this is why physically inactive lifestyles often affect mental sharpness more than many people realize. Now let's talk about neuroplasticity, because this is one of the most fascinating concepts in neuroscience. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to adapt, reorganize, and strengthen neural connections throughout life. For decades, people believed the aging brain could not change significantly. Now we know that is not true. The brain continues responding to stimulation, learning, movement, and environment well into later adulthood. This does not mean aging disappears, but it does mean the brain remains biologically active and responsive. Now let's discuss coordination exercises specifically. Simple coordinated movements challenge the brain because they require timing, concentration, and communication between multiple neural pathways. This is why activities like dancing, Tai Chi, balance training, and patterned movement exercises are increasingly studied in relation to cognitive aging. They engage the brain actively, not passively. Now let's talk about stress, because chronic stress affects memory profoundly. High cortisol levels over long periods may interfere with memory formation and concentration. Stress also disrupts sleep, increases inflammation, and reduces mental clarity. And honestly, many people who fear they are losing memory are actually experiencing chronic mental overload, exhaustion, anxiety, or sleep deprivation. Now let's discuss sleep, because this connection is critically important. Memory consolidation occurs heavily during sleep. During deep sleep, the brain organizes information, clears metabolic waste products, and strengthens neural connections involved in learning and recall. Poor sleep may impair focus, attention, and short-term memory dramatically. And unfortunately, sleep quality often worsens with age due to stress, medications, pain, sleep apnea, and disrupted sleep schedules. Now let's discuss blood sugar and cardiovascular health briefly. The brain depends on healthy blood vessels. Conditions like hypertension, diabetes, smoking, and vascular disease may affect circulation to brain tissue over time. This is one reason neurologists often say, what protects the heart also protects the brain. Movement improves circulation. Stable blood sugar supports vascular health. Healthy sleep supports neural repair. Reduced inflammation supports cognitive resilience. Everything is connected. Now let's talk about mental stimulation. The brain strengthens through use, learning new skills, reading, conversations, puzzles, music, language practice, and social interaction all challenge neural pathways. And honestly, one of the worst things for cognitive aging is passive isolation. The brain responds to engagement. Now let's discuss loneliness briefly, because this area is often overlooked. Social isolation increases stress, depression risk, inactivity, and cognitive decline risk. Human connection stimulates emotional and cognitive systems simultaneously. This means conversation itself can become a form of brain exercise. Now here is another important truth. Fear itself worsens memory. When people panic about forgetting something, stress hormones rise and retrieval becomes harder. Anxiety interferes with concentration. This creates a cycle where fear of memory loss actually worsens mental performance temporarily. Now let's end this first part with the most important message. The brain remains responsive throughout life. And while no 60-second exercise magically restores memory overnight, simple, consistent movement and coordination exercises may help stimulate circulation, focus, balance, and neural activity in ways that support healthier cognitive aging over time. Because memory is not controlled by one single magic switch, it reflects the condition of the entire brain and the overall health of the body supporting it. And in the next part, I'll explain why memory weakens with age, which daily habits silently accelerate cognitive decline, and the specific types of movement neurologists often recommend to help support sharper thinking and healthier brain aging naturally. I'm Dr. Alan Mandel, and as we continue, I want to explain why memory changes with age in the first place. Because many people assume the brain simply wears out, when in reality, cognitive aging is influenced by circulation, sleep, inflammation, stress, movement, and neural stimulation, all working together over decades. And honestly, understanding that bigger picture is important because it means the brain is not as helpless as many people fear. Before we continue, I want you to remember something critical. Occasional forgetfulness is not automatically dementia. Many healthy older adults experience slower recall speed while still maintaining strong intelligence, reasoning, personality, and long-term function. The brain changes with age, but slower processing is very different from severe neurodegenerative disease. Now let's begin with what actually happens inside the aging brain. As we grow older, communication between neurons may become less efficient. Blood vessels gradually stiffen. Inflammation may increase slightly. Sleep quality often declines. Stress accumulates. All of these factors affect how efficiently brain networks function. This means memory is not controlled by one isolated memory organ. It depends on systems working together: attention, focus, sleep quality, blood flow, emotional regulation, sensory processing, neural communication. If any of these systems become strained, memory performance often declines too. Now let's talk about circulation more deeply, because neurologists care enormously about vascular health. The brain depends on constant blood flow. Tiny blood vessels deliver oxygen and nutrients to neurons every second. Conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, obesity, physical inactivity may gradually damage these delicate vessels over time. And honestly, many cases of cognitive decline involve vascular damage contributing alongside other brain changes. This is one reason exercise matters so much. Movement increases circulation, supports blood vessel health, improves oxygen delivery, and helps regulate inflammation. Now let's discuss the 60-second exercise idea more practically. Many neurologists recommend brief coordination-based movements because they activate multiple brain systems simultaneously. One example is alternating cross-body movements. Right hand touching left knee, left hand touching right knee, repeated rhythmically while maintaining balance and attention. Why is this helpful? Because crossing the midline requires communication between both hemispheres of the brain. The movement combines coordination, timing, concentration, posture, and sensory awareness. Another simple exercise involves standing balance movements while turning the head slowly side to side. Again, this challenges balance centers, visual processing, spatial awareness, motor control. The brain becomes active because it must coordinate several systems simultaneously. And honestly, this is why activities involving rhythm and coordination often feel mentally stimulating. Now let's talk about neuroplasticity again, because this concept changes how we think about aging. Neuroplasticity means the brain can strengthen pathways through repeated use. Neural connections become stronger when activated consistently. This is why repetition matters. Not intensity, not perfection, consistency. Simple movements practiced daily may help reinforce coordination pathways and maintain cognitive engagement over time. Now let's discuss something very important. Sedentary living affects the brain profoundly. Long periods of inactivity reduce circulation, weaken muscles, impair balance, worsen insulin resistance, and decrease neural stimulation. The body and brain evolve together through movement. And honestly, the brain often functions better when the body stays active. Now let's talk about blood sugar, because the brain is extremely sensitive to metabolic instability. Chronically elevated blood sugar increases inflammation and may damage blood vessels over time, including those supplying the brain. Large glucose fluctuations may also affect concentration, energy, and mental clarity. This is why neurologists increasingly emphasize overall metabolic health as part of cognitive protection. Now let's discuss sleep, because this area may be one of the most underestimated factors in memory decline. During deep sleep, the brain performs critical maintenance functions. It consolidates memories, organizes information, regulates neural recovery, clears metabolic waste products. Poor sleep disrupts these processes dramatically, and unfortunately, many adults normalize chronic sleep deprivation without realizing how deeply it affects cognition. Now let's talk about stress hormones. Chronic stress increases cortisol exposure over time. Excess cortisol may interfere with attention, concentration, and memory formation. This does not mean stress causes dementia directly, but chronic stress absolutely affects cognitive performance and overall brain health. And honestly, many people experiencing burnout, anxiety, grief, or emotional overload mistakenly believe they are developing severe memory disease when their nervous system is simply overwhelmed. Now let's discuss social engagement, because this is another major protective factor. Conversation activates memory, language, emotional processing, attention, and social reasoning simultaneously. Isolation reduces this stimulation. This is why loneliness is increasingly recognized as a serious health issue affecting both emotional and cognitive well-being. Now let's talk about learning new things. The brain responds strongly to novelty, learning music, practicing new movements, trying a new language, reading challenging material, playing strategy games. All of these activities stimulate neural pathways. And honestly, the aging brain often performs best when it remains curious and engaged rather than passive. Now here is another important truth. Fear damages confidence. Many seniors become so afraid of forgetting something that anxiety itself disrupts concentration. When attention weakens, memory encoding weakens too. People often remember poorly, not because the memory disappeared, but because attention was fragmented during the moment the information first arrived. This is why focus matters. Now let's discuss realistic expectations. No exercise guarantees immunity from dementia. No routine completely stops aging. But healthy habits may help support cognitive resilience and reduce risk factors affecting brain function over time. That distinction matters enormously. Now let's close with the most important message from this section. The brain is not isolated from the rest of the body. It responds continuously to movement, circulation, sleep, stress, nutrition, social connection, mental stimulation. And this is exactly why neurologists increasingly focus on lifestyle patterns, not just memory symptoms themselves. Because healthier brain aging is rarely built from one miracle trick. It is usually built from small, consistent habits repeated across years. And in the final part, I'll explain the realistic daily routine neurologists often recommend for sharper thinking after 60, the biggest myths about memory recovery, and why protecting the brain early matters far more than waiting for severe symptoms to appear. I'm Dr. Alan Mandel, and as we finish, I want to leave you with something more valuable than another viral brain hack. I want to leave you with a realistic understanding of how neurologists actually think about memory, brain aging, and cognitive protection after 60. Because honestly, many people become terrified the moment they forget a name or misplace their keys. But healthy brain aging is far more nuanced than that. Before we conclude, I want you to remember one critical truth. The brain is living tissue, and like every other tissue in the body, it responds to how it is used, nourished, rested, challenged, and protected over time. Now let's talk about what neurologists actually focus on when helping people maintain cognitive health. Not miracle supplements, not instant memory tricks, not one magical 60-second exercise. They focus on the systems supporting the brain every single day. Circulation, sleep, movement, stress regulation, blood sugar stability, mental stimulation, social connection. Because memory depends on all of them working together. Now let's discuss movement one final time, because this remains one of the strongest tools for healthy brain aging. Movement increases blood flow to the brain. It stimulates coordination pathways, supports vascular health, improves insulin sensitivity, and activates regions involved in balance and motor control. And importantly, movement helps reduce inflammation and stress hormones that may interfere with cognitive function over time. This is why neurologists often encourage simple, consistent activity rather than extreme exercise programs. Walking matters. Balance work matters. Coordination exercises matter. Gentle strength training matters. Not because they cure memory loss, but because the brain functions better when the body remains active. Now let's talk about coordination specifically. Cross-body movements, rhythmic stepping, balance exercises, and pattern motions challenge the brain in ways passive activities do not. The brain must process timing, spatial awareness, attention, motor planning, sensory feedback. This creates active neural engagement. And honestly, one of the healthiest things for the aging brain is continued participation in activities requiring focus and coordination. Now let's discuss sleep, because this may be one of the most overlooked forms of brain care available. During deep sleep, the brain performs maintenance functions essential for cognitive performance. Memories are organized, neural pathways are reinforced, waste products are cleared, recovery processes occur. Poor sleep disrupts all of this, and unfortunately, many adults normalize fragmented sleep for years without realizing how heavily it affects focus, concentration, and memory retrieval. Now let's discuss stress, because chronic stress changes how the brain functions. Persistent stress hormones may impair attention and mental clarity. Anxiety also interferes with memory encoding. This means many people are not truly forgetting. They are failing to fully process information because the brain is overloaded, distracted, exhausted, or emotionally strained. And honestly, this distinction matters enormously. Now let's talk about social connection. Conversation stimulates language systems, emotional processing, attention, and recall simultaneously. Isolation reduces this stimulation and often increases depression and inactivity. The brain thrives on engagement. This is why meaningful human interaction may support cognitive resilience more than many people realize. Now let's discuss mental stimulation realistically. The brain strengthens through challenge, reading, learning new skills, music, games requiring strategy, creative hobbies, language practice, problem solving. These activities activate neural networks repeatedly, and importantly, the brain responds best when stimulation remains enjoyable and sustainable, not stressful. Now here is another critical truth. Fear of dementia has become so intense that many people interpret normal aging changes catastrophically. But occasional forgetfulness alone does not automatically mean severe disease. Neurologists look for patterns involving functional decline, confusion, disorientation, personality changes, impaired daily living abilities. Context always matters. Now let's discuss prevention, because this is where the real power exists. The habits protecting the heart often protect the brain too. Stable blood pressure, healthy circulation, balanced blood sugar, physical movement, smoking avoidance, inflammation reduction. Everything is connected through the vascular and nervous systems. Now let's talk about consistency, because this may be the most important concept of all. The brain responds to repeated daily inputs. One walk does little. One night of sleep does little. One puzzle does little. But repeated patterns shape long-term brain health over years. And honestly, this is where real cognitive protection happens. Not through dramatic quick fixes, but through steady biological support. Now let's address unrealistic promises directly. No neurologist can guarantee permanent memory recovery from one exercise. No honest doctor would claim that dementia disappears in 60 seconds. But supporting the brain consistently may help maintain sharper thinking, better focus, stronger coordination, and healthier cognitive aging over time. That is the real goal. Now let's end with the most important message of all. Your brain is not separate from the rest of your life. It reflects how you sleep, how you move, how you manage stress, how you nourish the body, how socially engaged you remain, how mentally active you stay. And this means healthier brain aging is not usually built from one miracle solution. It is built from small daily habits that continuously support the systems your brain depends on. So if there is one final thing I want you to remember, it is this. The most powerful memory exercise is not one movement done for 60 seconds. It is living in a way that keeps the brain active, challenged, rested, connected, and supported consistently over time, because the brain remains responsive throughout life. And when you continue giving it movement, stimulation, circulation, sleep, and purpose, it often continues responding far better than many people ever expect.